Mere Conservatism.
David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker. This is Mere Conservatism. I know there's some things you're going to like. And among those things is our first story. You know, David, I think sometimes you and I think sometimes give progressives and the Democrats more credit than they deserve as far as being intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some
I didn't
example.
think I did that, but maybe.
Occasionally, I think you might, do it. First Lady Jill Biden, you heard about this, had to issue an apology after
Bogotas.
Right. She faced criticism, not just that, but also breakfast tacos, to praise the Latino diversity. Now, she made the comments during a conference in San Antonio for the Latino civil rights, and she commented on the diversity of that community as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio. That's your strength. Okay, so I'm wondering, first of all, blame her speechwriters. I would do that. But I mean, why didn't even she catch that? What is it about them that thinks that they could say things like that and it not come out the way that they...
Well, and you didn't mention that she said the word bodega.
Yes, you mispronounced that.
She mispronounced it bodega.
Right.
So, sometimes, how about you use words that this woman knows and has seen before and maybe read them out loud?
They were trying to do that human touch type thing with her. Yeah.
First of all, the whole diversity is our strength speech is so tired and silly. It's funny because it's a gaffe.
Yeah.
And also, it's one of those things where if Donald Trump or any Republican had said something like this, it would be totally racist.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing about it. It's not racist. It's not offensive. It's not racist.
Right.
It's just stupid.
Exactly.
It's embarrassing is what it is. And so, we can laugh about it and stuff, but it's important to mention that kind of thing. I mean, this is like, remember Mitt Romney had his binder full of women.
Yeah.
Binder full of women. Oh, no, he's so sexist, a binder full of women. I mean, these were resumes of women
that he
was considering
right.
hiring, and it was seen as offensive to women that he had a binder full of women. Just the way he said it came out awkward, and that's the same situation. It's not offensive. It's just an awkward way to say it, and that's the same thing here.
I'm not really talking about how offensive it is, but in a way I am, to the extent that this is the party that's supposed to be so full of empathy. The National Association of Hispanic Journalists called on the First Lady to take the time in the future to better understand the complexities of our people and communities, adding, "We are not tacos.
That's just dumb.
Do not reduce us to stereotypes."
Okay. You know what? It's because they're offended.
Yeah.
And look, it's just as dumb for you to be offended about that
I agree.
as it is for her to say it to begin with.
I see their point, though. See, my point is this. They know, and you brought this out yourself once, Hispanics know what the Democrats are trying to do with them.
They're pandering. Yeah.
That they're tokens, and they're being pandered to, and that Latinx thing, they got rebuked for that. And I just think the Hispanics were saying, enough. Okay. Enough with the heavy-handed effort that you're getting to try to make us a permanent constituency of your party. Enough. And it's having an impact because Biden is really low in the polls.
We are not tacos. I like to say it. I mean, it's just the whole thing is so silly, right? It's more, to me, when I look at that story, it's more of like a lighthearted chuckle. It's just the whole thing is so silly. But yes, the pandering is so dumb.
Yeah.
And you see Democrats do this really badly. Not that Republicans are free of doing this. Remember Donald Trump, when he was president, didn't he make a post or something saying how much it was like Cinco de Mayo, and he made a post and he was like, "I love chimichangas."
Yeah, something like that.
From Trump Tower or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was, and people were outraged because he's such a racist guy, and it was he's obviously the KKK incarnate and all that stuff because he said this. No, he's not racist. It was kind of a stupid, silly thing to say. I'll acknowledge that, but
That's all it was.
It's just dumb. It's not. It's not bad. It's just stupid.
And not only that, but the difference is, I don't believe Trump had that on a teleprompter. He was just talking like he was off the cuff. This was written out beforehand.
Yes.
By speechwriters.
She wrote it. She read it off the teleprompter.
Right. So my point is, it's just like they would have caught it because they're the ones that have so sensitized everybody to things, and here they are, making one their own.
Meanwhile, you got Joe Biden on teleprompter saying things like, "We must remember the honor of the Holocaust. I mean, the horror of the Holocaust of the."
See, you're about to make me break a promise I made to myself. Okay, and seriously, I made a promise to myself actually about a week ago that I was not going to try to find any amusement in the mental diminishing of Biden. Well, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, had Jill done what Biden does, she never would have gotten that far in the you're as diverse as the Bagagus was in New York.
Oh, my God. All right, let's move along because you're making me break my promise again. But again, just a little light start to some heavier stuff coming up. All right, now here's some heavier stuff. Senator Elizabeth Warren, or Pocahontas as we mostly like to call her, was in Massachusetts, and she was making a speech. She said, in Massachusetts right now, crisis pregnancy centers, there are more of those, they're there to fool people who are looking for pregnancy termination, and they outnumber what she called true abortion clinics 3-1. Her solution, and she says this, we need to shut them down here in Massachusetts, and, David, we need to shut them down all around the country. Quoting, you should not be able to torture a pregnant person like that.
A pregnant person.
Yeah, not a woman. A pregnant person. You caught that.
All right. So I saw this, and I've seen what she has to say on this topic. Mm-hmm. And this is something I do not say lightly at all, but she is absolutely evil. Agreed. The word evil is perfectly applicable to her.
I'm used to political rhetoric. I agree with you. But what she just said was not just political rhetoric. Yeah, I agree. I brought it up because the director of a California crisis pregnancy center was talking on Fox Thursday, and she said her location has been one that's been under attack by pro-choice activists since the ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. She says they have had to stop operations of their mobile clinic. They've had to hire 24-hour on-site security for their pregnancy care center. They've had to add cameras. They've had to arm their staff with, she said, pepper spray. I hope they give them more than that. But all because they have been under, physical marking of the building. Last week, she said a man with a machete showed up at her. So my point is, Warren's words are indeed being used to instigate violence against pregnancy care centers. There have been a dozen, David, that have already been.
You're saying she's turning up the heat a little bit on
not just turning up the heat. She's calling for the fire. Okay, literally. If that would have been a Republican saying something like that about abortion clinics, okay, you know what they'd be saying now.
Well, just imagine how twisted. Just think about for a second how twisted this is, Cleve. You imagine two buildings. And in one building, you have a group of people and an organization that's set up to give women food, help them find shelter for the woman and her baby, give them prenatal vitamins to help them carry a healthy pregnancy to term. They provide diapers. They may provide counseling for like adoption services and different things like that. That's one building. In the other building, they put a woman on a surgical table and they cut her unborn baby into pieces and suck it through a tube into a sink. And then maybe they sell some of those body parts for research. Now, which one of those places is a bad place and which one is a good place? And Senator Warren would say that the place that gives diapers and counseling for abortion is a bad place and that the place that cuts the babies into pieces is a good place. And it's so twisted. This is an example, Cleve, of the Antichrist who will label good evil and evil good. I mean, this is totally backwards and flipped upside down wrong, that it's not even like It's not even like a moderate position or anything. It's all the way on the opposite side of what's right.
Well, see,
and that's why I use the word evil when I'm talking about what she's saying. And you look at her eyes when she's talking.
Yeah.
She's crazy. You would almost believe that she is possessed. And again, I'm not saying this lightly. There's a problem with her. And people in Massachusetts, that's your representative in the Senate. I mean, look out.
But here's the problem with that. The ilk of people like her are all over the Progressive Party who say just as outrageous and evil things as Warren says. And I actually lead that party. And again, if you're new to this podcast, David and I are men of faith, okay? Our conservatism is based upon the bedrock of Christian faith, which we also happen to believe that this nation was actually originally founded upon, but that's another story for another time. So we want to observe not just the so-called political observations and things that are inferred by that, but the spiritual principles behind this. And evil is more than just politics as usual. Evil is what you saw when Nazism rose and Hitler took charge and began to, for no possible reason, began to kill Jewish people. That's evil. And what Warren is talking about and their attitude and the rage they show in burning and defacing, and they've been doing this now for a long time, again, that's not politics as usual. And so I'm glad you used, I didn't know you were going to say it, but I'm glad you used that word evil. That is what we're dealing with. So we need to understand that to fully appreciate how important it is that, especially those of us who say we're believers, say something, okay? Yeah. Stand up. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
And it comes off as just absolute bloodlust for babies,
yes,
doesn't it? It's so ugly.
Well, yeah.
And it's just...
They're not even hiding the fact they want 9 months, okay, as far as being able to go all the way to term. They're not even hiding it now. Now they're just, hey, we'll be a sanctuary state for folks who want to do things like that. That's the kind of things we're hearing.
Abortion tourism. It's terrible.
And so again, one of the things I've been doing, I've been remembering to pray more, okay? Because that's, hey, listen, and I said this already, but I'm going to say it again. I believe that prayer was definitely one of the reasons why Roe v. Wade was overturned. And I had personally given up on that, and I count it as a modern day miracle. Mm-hmm. And so her reaction and the reaction to her kind of people are an example of what we face. It's not your mama's or grandmama's or granddaddy's Democrat Party anymore. You know, it's pure evil. Anyway, real quickly, the vice chairman of the California Republican Party called out...
Wait a second. The what? They have one of those?
They have one of those. They really do. He called out the state's liberal leaders this past Thursday for turning a blind eye to criminals. Roughly $100,000, maybe you heard about this, David, in stolen goods was found in a bunker in a homeless encampment in San Jose. They already arrested 5 suspects in connection to the stolen goods. They're still looking for one more. Peter Cuo, who has lived in San Jose, he's the chairman, by the way, of the Republican Party there, for more than 40 years, explained that the discovery of the stolen items came after police found 3 guns in that bunker as well. Cuo added the bunker is likely not a unique incident, and he's warned there could be more than 100 more like that in their area. So I bring this up to say this. A lot of us have observed the liberal prosecutors turning a blind eye to crime in places like that and other liberal enclaves. But now we're also seeing, not only is this a progressive sentiment, but there's a profit motive involved there. There's a whole underground criminal network and conspiracy.
Yeah, because what do you think they're doing with $100,000 worth of goods?
Right.
Black market.
Right. They're not spreading it out to homeless people. That thing's being found on the black market. I'm sure they're getting a lot of money for it. So it's like...
Hey, the profit margin is huge when you steal the items.
Right. Exactly.
You can make a lot of money. I mean, you can still they steal things, Cleve, like a stick of deodorant.
I know.
I'm serious.
I know.
They'll go to pharmacies or whatever. They'll steal deodorant. They'll sell it for $2 a stick, which is a discount, and they'll make $2 on it because their profit margin is huge because they stole it. They didn't buy it, and so that they make money off of it. And what I want to know more about this homeless bunker.
Yeah.
What do you mean a bunker? Is it like a?
It was like a well-designed cellar type thing.
Where?
Underground in some place.
I'm so confused at how these homeless people, they don't have a home, but they have a bunker?
Well, here's my point. Again, this is not done by so-called homeless people. This is done by a criminal enterprise who, again, are using a progressive policy to make out big time. I mean, they are enriching themselves.
You basically have the mafia.
Yes.
Who sells toiletries on the black market.
And so they do this under the cover of supposedly helping the homeless. Because I remember one part of California where they set up, I think $99. It was up to $99 you could take and not even be charged from a store. And many of the people who stole made sure they went under that amount.
To know. But they're scanning them before they let's see, how much is this one?
So my point is, I only bring this up to say this. In a sane world, a city that allowed something like this to be a regular happenstance, which is what it is. In a sane world, the mayor would be thrown out, the DAs would already be thrown out. We know we got one recalled, but I'm just telling you, this is the picture of the dystopian future if we continue to allow the progressives to do what they're doing.
It's true, and I'll take it a step further. In a sane world, there wouldn't be any Republicans in California. They would have moved, and I think that should happen.
That may be coming about.
I actually think that it's a good thing for Republicans to leave California, move to Nevada, move to Arizona. Let's make those states a little more red. Those are kind of purple states, so let's make them more red. Let's get California, let it be as blue as it wants to be. I found it really interesting that on July 4th, the mayor, or the governor, I should say, of California, Gavin Newsom, ran ads in Florida.
Right.
Saying, hey, come to California. You don't like the policies in Florida, come to California. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. Yes. Please do that.
It was so stupid.
All you blue Democrat voters that want to live in a place like California, please get out of Florida. Let us keep Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I actually think that purple states, Cleve, they may go away. Now, this last election, you saw some states turn purple that you wouldn't expect, like Georgia. I really would like to see these states, these red states, continue to be as red as possible and say, here's the door, Democrats. We like it this way. We're going to continue making it this way. You move next door to Illinois if you don't like Indiana, or you go to Nevada if you don't like California, or whatever the case may be. I think that they should do that. I like to see it.
The only problem, again, is when you come down here from California or New York, please at least don't bring your political influences with you. In other words, don't vote like you vote there. Don't bring your progressive ideas, because that has happened in parts of Texas.
But what do you think the Republican head of the head of the Republican Party of San Jose, California, is probably not going to move to Texas and vote Democrat?
I hear you.
It's easy for me to say. Okay, I live in Georgia. It's until recently, it's a red state. I live in a very conservative area, and I don't have to think about moving. But if I lived in a place like that, you better believe I'd be thinking real hard about moving, not just me, but I have extended family that live around me. I'd be trying to talk everybody into moving with me.
Well, New York and California, to me, are literally doing things to make what you said a prophecy, because they are so dug in and doubling down on their progressive policies. They're saying, we're going to be this way forever. So you either love it or you don't.
And you got businesses leaving those places.
Big time.
And
huge
when you have
industries.
Businesses leave, you have people leave.
That's a good point. So the problem is California felt like they were safe because they had such a grasp on the leadership, both houses and the presidency, that they could get money that would replace the tax base that they're going to lose by people fleeing. However, if that changes and the Democrats lose power, they're in trouble big time. Because Trump was not about underwriting liberal cities and their policies, so he wasn't about that.
Yeah, that was one of the best things he did.
Speaking of Donald Trump, since we brought him up, The former president later this month is going to be making his first appearance back in Washington, D.C. He will be the headline speaker at a political summit for the America First Policy Institute. It's going to be happening July 26th. That summit expected to focus on conservative solutions for surging inflation, gas prices, and whatnot, as well as immigration and education, all things that Trump had a big stamp on when he was in president. This is a new poll, by the way, and I'm going to share it with you since we're talking about Trump. And nearly 50% of Republican voters say they want Trump to run in 2024, while that same poll says around 25% say they want DeSantis to run. Now, they say both politicians enjoy very high favorability ratings, with 46% saying they view Trump very favorably and 44% saying they feel the same with DeSantis. So I bring all this up now to say, okay, I took. Go ahead. Say what's on your mind.
Hey, the polls are the polls. The people want what the people want. Yeah. I didn't understand it the first time around. I didn't understand it in 2016.
Yep.
But that's what the people voted for, and he ended up being president. So if that's what the people want, that's what they want. That's not who I would vote for in a primary. I would vote for Ron DeSantis, but the people I vote for in primaries never win anything. So,
well, again, Trump was not the person that I was voting for in the primary when he was running the first time. But you brought up an interesting point, and the reason I'm saying this is because from time to time, just to encourage myself, I'll go back and watch on YouTube the coverage of election night when Trump won, and I'm reminded every time, because I always bring this out, all the polls, every single one of them had Hillary Clinton winning by a landslide, not by a little bit.
Yeah.
So my point is, I don't really trust polls to begin with, but particular polls that are done by certain media outlets and whatnot.
Well, we're still a ways out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Things and it looks like Trump. He's going to go make the speech. He may start to be a little more public. DeSantis, I feel like, has been in front of him.
Right. He's been out there
for the past year or so, being very out front and gaining national profile, which is something he needs to do. Donald Trump doesn't really need to do that as much, but it kind of looked like DeSantis was pulling ahead of him, as not in the polls, but as far as doing things now, laying groundwork for running.
Yeah.
You can tell that DeSantis is doing a lot, and he has an advantage because he's actually in a place where he can affect policy that he can actually run on. So that helps him. Now, Trump was president, so that helps him. When he makes this speech that he's going to do next month, I don't really expect a whole lot of great policy points from him or anything like that. Maybe, but that's not really what he's known for. He's more like he's going to do his stand-up routine.
I think that I actually feel that Trump may make his announcement to run before the midterms. I know you don't want that, and believe me, I don't think I want it either. But Trump has never subscribed to conventional thinking about anything. Now, here's the advantage.
Well, and I feel like, and I've always felt like Trump thinks mostly about Trump, and I think that has at sometimes worked out fine. He won the presidency, but at other times has worked out really poorly. We lost 2 Senate seats in Georgia because Trump was thinking about Trump and not the bigger picture. And I don't want him to hurt us because he's thinking mostly about
And that's a fine political understanding of things. But Trump, I don't think, does it just because of him. I think Trump actually just trusts his judgment over the judgment of others. Basically, he does not like to think that he is beholden or bound to any kind of political convention of thought. And so if he decides it's the best thing to do, then I don't care who tells him what, that's what he's going to do. Now, the one thing to me that Trump has going for him, for me, over DeSantis, who I love, by the way, and I would love to see
Does he know how you feel?
He knows a lot of us feel that way about him, okay? And I would love to see him run. But the one thing Trump can say is, listen, the success that Trump had eclipsed modern day presidential success, and he did it while everything in the world, the kitchen sink was thrown at him. He made that accomplishment, and I got to remember that. His accomplishments came when he was being undermined on every hand by his own Justice Department, by the FBI, by foreign intrigue inside the Foreign Service, by CIA, by the Democrats. Listen,
his own cabinet,
the media,
in some cases.
Right, the media, and he still accomplished what he did. And again, Roe v. Wade will be one of his legacy points. So I just never think you can count him out. Or you can count him out, I believe, at your own peril. So I think that the Democrats would love for him to announce now, thinking, he would finally give us something to run on other than what we don't have. But I think they're going to be very surprised.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they're going to run against him either way, whether he's running or not. That's what they have. It'll be interesting to see what he says. You know, one thing you mentioned there, he's going to talk about a Republican response to inflation. What is our response to inflation? What do we do about it? Mm-hmm. What do you think, Cleve?
Well, I think we do what we did when he was in office, but that means rolling back a lot of the stuff that Biden is doing now, but it doesn't happen instantly. I believe we go into recession, and it's going to take hard work and sound principles, which he put in place to get us out of it. That's as simple as that.
You know, there was an old political slogan.
What's that?
A long time ago, Cleve, before your time probably. It was like 2008. Do you remember that? And John McCain was running for president, and Sarah Palin was his running mate. And the slogan at all the conventions and all the rallies was "Drill, baby, drill."
Oh, yeah.
Remember "Drill, baby, drill"?
I do remember that.
This was the rallying cry for basically it was for energy independence.
Yeah.
This was the pitch.
Yeah.
We need to be energy independent. We need to be free from people who dislike us.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to be at their mercy when it comes to our energy. Drill, baby, drill. The first step in fixing inflation, Cleve, is drill, baby, drill.
Okay.
This ought to be, and they don't have to have the same slogan, but this needs to be a rallying cry for Republicans because it starts with energy.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
If gas prices were lower, everything would be lower.
Yeah. I mean, you're making a great point.
And we have and there can still be inflation when you have lower gas prices. But what happens is that it's much less painful for people because the inflation we're feeling. You know, I can do without buying a car for a couple of years if I need to, more than likely. You know, my car's going to run, hopefully, and I can do without buying a car. I can't do without buying bread and peanut butter and stuff like that for my kids because they like to eat.
Well, they do tend to do that. Yeah.
I can't do without putting gas in my car, and so it's the staples that really.
But see, there you go. You missed the whole point. The Democrats already solved that problem. Just get an electric vehicle,
exactly.
And it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
David Perry, where can he hear this again?
Check it out on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcast. Go on Facebook, search for Mere Conservatism. Go to YouTube, search for MereCon Media. You'll find us all over the place.
And that's David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker, inviting you again to check us out with another podcast, with another edition of Mere Conservatism. It's not over with yet. Keep the faith.